Don't quit your job at the bank. It's such a waste. But maybe it's better for a sloppy guy like you to live in the countryside and stretch out, LOL.
At the junior high school reunion, Robert, who used to work at the same bank as me, mocked me for switching to a farming job. The reason I moved to the countryside where my maternal grandfather lives was because I got fed up with living in the city due to being framed by Robert. But even though it was your fault, I didn't hold a grudge against Robert. In my new home, I found something precious, something more important than anything else. I am John Smith. I excelled in studies from a young age. I always scored perfect and never below 90. My parents seemed extremely proud of me, and I was proud of myself for being like that. However, I had a problem. I attended an escalator-style private school from elementary to high school, always ranking first, and then I went to a prestigious university through the same escalator system. And even in university, I continued to achieve excellent grades. I was hired by a major New York bank without experiencing any setbacks. However, at New York Bank, where elites gathered, my boasting efficiency went unnoticed. And I had a weakness. I was not good at communicating with others. Even though I was good at studying, communication was essential in the workplace, so the part of me that had been neglected became apparent, and I fell behind my colleagues.
Hey, John.
Yes, I was stopped by one of my female colleagues. I knew the reason why I was stopped. It was because of the blunder I made in the window service earlier.
John, aren't you from a good background and quite smart, yet you can't handle window service?
I'm sorry.
Did you cheat at school?
No, well.
Why is someone like this working with him, who does a good job?
A man named Robert, who had been in the same class as me since elementary school and had always been second in the class following me, was my colleague at the bank. He had lower academic background than me, but was handsome and had excellent communication skills.
Because Robert is here, I'm depositing money at this bank.
When an elderly lady came to the counter and found out that Robert was her account manager, she said happily and told him that. By the way, when I tried to assist this lady, she said, "Oh, I forgot something at home, so I'll go back," and left.
It's nice of you to say that. Mrs. Bates, it looks like it's going to rain today, so be careful on your way home.
Oh my goodness, thank you.
She had a delighted expression on her face. Robert, is he a smooth talker? He can naturally say words of concern to others. Well, this guy has never said anything like that to me in our lifelong friendship.
Oh, it's John. You messed up the window service again.
Robert, are you sure you don't have a split personality?
I'm better at my job than you, so don't be jealous.
Well, Robert has quite a different personality behind the scenes like this. And every time I fail at work, he comes and teases me like this, which is annoying. I thought I could work glamorously for a major company during my student days and before joining the workforce. But reality was different. Even though I tried my best to use my weak communication skills and make an effort, I would fail and be ridiculed by the office lady and my colleagues. I'm not good at the current environment where I have to worry about evaluations in such a narrow world. One day, Robert and I were summoned by the branch manager.
I might get promoted, and you might get fired.
I was fine with that feeling. I was starting to find it a bit tough to continue working in this bank and in the city. However, the reason the branch manager called us was the same for both of us. After leaving the branch manager's office, Robert suddenly showed his anger.
Besides me, but why the hell are you also being transferred to the sales department?
It's a decision by the big shot, so we have no choice but to follow.
Dan,
For some reason, both of us were transferred to the sales department. Speaking of the sales department, it's a department for loan sales with quotas. It's hard work, but it's also a prestigious department. As a loan officer, the clients are not ordinary citizens, but business owners. I thought that I could somehow make it by using my thinking skills rather than communication. I saw this as a chance given to me by the big shot. It's a bit complicated for Robert to be transferred with me, but having competition is good. I was determined to show them all that I would definitely make a comeback, and with that determination, Robert and I were transferred to the sales department.
I must say, John, you're reliable because you're sharp.
Oh, no, I still have a long way to go.
Please continue to help us.
Yes, thank you very much. And as planned, my problem-solving skills spoke louder than my communication skills. I smoothly handled my work and began to secure contracts beyond the quotas. Of course, it was because the job suited me, and I actively sought guidance from my seniors to improve my weak communication skills. I thought that just because I was bad at it, I shouldn't let communication be a hindrance, so I made an effort. And then, as my seniors watched me, they started praising me, saying, "John, you seem to have become brighter. It's great." However, city life still wasn't suitable for me. A few months after the transfer, I was summoned by a serious-looking Robert. "What's wrong? You didn't come here to make sarcastic remarks, did you?"
John, please help me.
Huh?
I can't meet the quota. I can cause trouble just because of me. Can you secretly assign me some cases?
I didn't think Robert's serious expression was a lie, and I thought it was also a form of communication, so I secretly assigned him some cases, and I would come to regret it. At the end of the month, our performance was announced at a meeting, and I couldn't believe my eyes. Robert's performance was actually better than mine, even though he had been lamenting about not meeting the quota. Robert had actually secured more cases than I did.
John should learn from Robert.
Yes. Looking at me, who was being scolded by our boss, Robert had a smirk on his face. Aw, my life is just like this after all. It's a life where I'm only used by others for their own benefit. With that thought, my emotions faded away. Everything became burdensome, hypocritical, and empty. I felt like I had reached my limit, and before I knew it, I had submitted my resignation to New York Bank. I quit a major bank. My parents were bewildered by my bizarre behavior. I broke up with my girlfriend, whom I was about to marry. And I became a shut-in, staying in my room all day. Worried about my condition, my mother forcibly took me to a mental health clinic, where I was diagnosed with mild depression. They told me that at this level, I might recover by taking a closer look at myself slowly. So, for some reason, I decided to reevaluate my life and went to my grandparents' house. My grandparents' house was quite rural, and my grandfather grew grapes and vegetables. My grandmother had passed away a long time ago, so my grandfather lived alone, so I started helping with the farming. I was good at studying, but I wasn't very strong physically. At first, my grandfather laughed and said, "You don't have as much stamina as I do." If you compare the physical strength of a farmer grandpa and that of a city businessman, the farmer grandpa definitely has more.
John, how about taking a little break?
Oh, finally, a break.
You're so lazy even though you're young.
While laughing, my grandfather brewed some tea for us.
I don't know the details of why you came here, but life is long. You can think things through again from here.
The tea my grandfather brewed had a slightly bitter taste. Coming here was a good decision. Working on farming with a life senior was a refreshing change of pace. Since then, I woke up early in the morning and helped with growing grapes and vegetables on the vast property. I used to be afraid of bugs, and in the beginning, I would make a fuss over finding just one caterpillar. But now, I empathized with their struggle to survive, and my resistance disappeared. The farmland on the expansive property, which my grandfather managed by himself, was so large that I often wondered how he did it. When I asked my grandfather about it, he told me that he usually hired a few people from the elderly labor agency. However, recently, he had reduced the number of workers because I was here to help.
You know, John, I hate this world where farming is considered at the bottom. Don't you think it's strange that they call what we do at the bottom, even though we're able to feed ourselves with the crops we grow?
Yeah, you're right, Grandpa. I used to think farming was nothing, but now I take pride in it. I had come to enjoy working in nature. The feeling I couldn't have imagined during my days in the city wearing a suit. Now, I was striving to produce better crops with my grandfather and the people from the agency struggling together. This way of life continued for about 3 years. One day, as I was driving along a country road in my car, I saw a woman walking barefoot while singing a cheerful song, even though she was wearing a suit. I became suspicious, or rather worried, and cautiously called out to her from the car. Are you okay?
Yes, thank you. I think my high heels broke from walking for a long time. Or maybe it's because of the rough country road. I tripped and fell. My shoes got swept away in the ditch.
I glanced at the ditch next to her, and sure enough, her black pumps were being carried away by the water. But what concerned me more than the shoes was her feet. They were covered in blood and looked very red. I'm not living alone. I live with my grandfather, so please don't worry, and invited her to my grandfather's house. My grandfather happened to be at home, and he was bustling around, saying, "First, let's treat your feet," as he prepared tea, or rather, first aid for her.
Ouch, 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 ouch.
While I was treating her injured feet, she screamed in pain. With so much blood, it must be painful. Where did you come from?
New York. I got tired of wearing a suit, high heels, quotas, office politics, and all that, so I changed trains on my way to work and ended up here.
She said this while showing a tired smile.
I just gave up and thought, I don't care anymore.
For some reason, I felt like I was looking at my past self. I understand because I went through the same thing.
Really?
Yeah, I used to work at a bank in New York too, but I got exhausted, quit the company, and when I went to the hospital, they said I had mild depression. I came here because I wanted to change myself.
You're the same as me, huh?
She smiled. It was a smile I felt like I had seen somewhere before.
Hey, is depression okay?
I've been doing farming here for 3 years, and I've calmed down a lot. I hardly take any medication now.
Farming is amazing.
She said this and found a photo in the living room. It was a picture from my student days. With her newly treated, painful feet, she unsteadily stood up and picked up the photo.
No way.
Huh, what's wrong?
Hey, aren't you John Smith? I'm Mia Wilson. Do you remember?
What could it be, Mia? She was a childhood friend I had been close to since I was little, and she had always been famous for her beauty. She suddenly transferred to another school during junior high. I had a crush on her back then. It seemed that she hadn't formed a bad impression of me, and she was happy to reunite. I couldn't believe I was meeting my first love again in this way. It felt like fate. From that day on, Mia moved into my grandfather's house, and from the next day, we worked on farming together while taking care of her injured foot. Surprisingly, Mia was good with bugs despite being a woman. She would even say things like, "Oh, how cute," when she saw a caterpillar. On that day, Mia and I stood in the kitchen together, chatting as we made a salad with cucumbers and tomatoes we had harvested and served my grandfather with eggplants simmered in a dish.
Delicious. Well, Mia, how about becoming John's wife?
Grandpa.
That might be a good idea. John has always been a good guy, and farming is fun. Think about it, Mia.
Wait, Mia. Grandpa burst into laughing. We lived together like this, joking around, for 2 years. Life with her made me feel alive and brought joy. My depression was completely gone.
Yeah, I've figured out what I need to do.
Saying that, she returned to New York. About a month later, I received a letter from my mother. A letter in this day and age. I was surprised. Inside was a letter from my mother saying, "You seem to be doing well," and an invitation to a high school reunion. A class reunion, her.
John, are you going?
Maybe I should.
You'll meet old friends after a long time. You should go.
And so, I decided to attend the high school reunion. There was another reason I wanted to go to New York, but I had forgotten about it.
Oh, it's you, John. It's been about 5 years, right? You're still alive.
Come to think of it, he was also a classmate from back then. Robert.
What are you up to these days?
He can't hide that smirk on his face. He didn't even apologize for what he did to me, pushing me into depression, and now he's laughing at my profession. Well, I'm doing farming with my grandpa now.
Farming? No way. The top student in our class is a farmer now. That's hilarious.
Making fun of someone's profession without even apologizing for what he did. How rude.
Quitting the bank job is such a waste, but someone like you, who's a bit of a mess, might be better off living a laid-back life in the countryside.
My classmates were essentially all elites. Everyone was siding with Robert and mocking me. They were all mocking me, probably enjoying my downfall after being the top student in school. Robert chimed in,
What are you doing in your 20s without building a career?
I mean, living a peaceful life in the countryside and getting a wife might not be a bad idea. I was just speaking my mind. However, the others were already treating me like a clown.
Marriage. Do you even have a girlfriend?
Not right now.
No way, just give up and embrace the single life.
Farmers like you aren't cut out for marriage, so give it up.
Well, I thought the city was suffocating, and then a girl arrived late and raised her voice unexpectedly.
Getting married is easy for you, John. I'm here, after all.
Mia,
It seems like things are getting lively. With me here, John will become a hero.
Mia transferred out of our middle school without graduating, but it seemed like she had received an invitation after all. Or rather, what does she mean by hero?
I didn't expect to see you, Mia. You're still beautiful even as an adult.
Mia's beauty was enchanting, and Robert and the others were excited by her appearance. However, Robert seemed bothered by Mia's words.
Wait a minute. Were John and you really that close? Wait, could it be?
I'm John's fiancé.
He was quite surprised to hear that. Well, even I hadn't heard about it. I hoped it would turn out that way. Then, the guys who had been mocking me started to approach Mia. Robert, in particular, used a boastful and dirty approach, but Mia just laughed it off.
Working at a bank isn't a big deal. John's annual income is $2 million.
No way. 2 million from farming. That's impossible.
But Mia isn't lying. They looked quite surprised. As the venue began to buzz with uncertainty about whether the story was true or not, Mia cleared her throat and started explaining about our farming.
John is being recognized in the industry as a pioneer of smart farming.
I pondered how I could make the best use of my grandfather's extensive farmland. Using my natural intelligence, I came up with ideas like using drones for pesticide spraying. As a pioneer, I revitalized and utilized the local barren lands in my grandfather's hometown. But reaching $2 million in income was thanks to Mia. Originally, Mia worked as a researcher at a pharmaceutical company. Leveraging her skills from that time, she improved fertilizers and, with her naturally research-driven personality, achieved great success in breeding. That breeding achievement was quite something.
What kind of breed is it? I bet it's something I've never heard of.
Do you know a certain type of grapes called Shine Muscat?
It actually became quite famous. Don't you know, Robert?
At that moment, Robert's face turned bright red with embarrassment and shame.
Don't make fun of me.
Robert, who had thought less of me, was jealous of my success and left with a bright red face. Afterward, classmates who had heard the story gathered around us, creating a crowd. I couldn't stand them. They were the ones who had mocked me earlier. I felt disgusted. Mia also wore a puzzled expression, so we decided to leave first. As expected, the atmosphere in New York didn't suit us. While walking, I asked Mia what she had been doing all this time. Mia began to speak as she looked up at the evening sky.
When I moved to the countryside, I was mentally exhausted, so I cut off contact with acquaintances.
Even your parents?
Yeah, so I went to apologize. I said sorry for worrying them. They were both exasperated, but they forgave me.
I see. That's great.
Also, I told them that I want to marry you.
Mia's cheeks were faintly blushing. That's great. So, this won't go to waste, huh? The reason I decided to go back to New York was to buy an engagement ring for Mia.
We were thinking the same thing.
It seems like it. When I presented the ring, Mia extended her left hand, and this way, Mia and I started walking through life together. After getting married, about a year later, it wasn't just the two of us anymore. We had another member in our family. And then, we were blessed with 4 more children, making us a family of 5. Our kids absolutely loved grapes. When the season came, they would rush to the grape vineyard, shouting, "All you can eat." Well, it wasn't exactly all you can eat, but you get the idea. But it was delightful when they all frowned and protested in unison when we served tomatoes, eggplants, or bell peppers at the dinner table, saying, "No way, I hate it, I won't eat it." As they grew older, they began to appreciate the farming, and little by little, their pickiness diminished, or so it seemed. There are many challenges in life. We've experienced struggles and great successes. Raising children and farming are both tough, but with Mia, we can overcome anything. We're kindred spirits, outcasts from society. Yet, as long as we're together, we can conquer any difficulties. We firmly believe that,